Steve doing this. Do you know who's Steve doing? That's good. Climate change. This is the climate cult. Would you like an answer to the question or not? Because I think you're actually.
Lie to your kids like you're lying
you
to
are
us.
All right, that was Vivek Ramaswamy last night at a campaign event. He was trying to deal with these climate activists. I think he handled it very well. That was suddenly thrust on him, but he was able to try to talk down some of the craziness. But that's what these candidates are dealing with these days. Sometimes these events pop up, something similar. Ron DeSantis earlier in the week. And these last-minute events sort of test their mettle and patience. Vivek Ramaswamy, kind enough to join us now out of Des Moines. Vivek, what happened here?
Look, I think we had a normal campaign event, and I believe in free speech, Neil. So people disagreed with me. I gave them the mic, and we had a respectful conversation. And I think that's how America was built, is we don't all have to agree on everything, but we do have the right to actually say it. And so they disagreed with me on my climate policies. I gave them the mic. We had an open conversation, and I think it was a respectful and good way to demonstrate what happens. I don't prefer to silence protesters. I prefer to give them the chance to speak. But at the same time, we owe it to this country to make sure that every voice gets heard, not just the people who try to shout each other down. And so I think it was an instructive moment, a teaching moment, and I think something positive came out of it last night.
Well, I give you credit. I mean, you did let them speak. Some of them wouldn't let you speak, and some of them even, interrupted you as you were trying to say, I'll listen. But this is the kind of thing that does pop up on the campaign stump, and you know that more often than not for a lot of candidates. What's your advice to candidates in dealing with this sort of thing?
My advice to candidates is don't be thrown off. I think a lot of times you've seen other instances of other campaigns that have thrown people out of events. I think some of these same people ended up at Ron DeSantis' event. It went very differently over there. But the truth of the matter is, what happens with young people in many cases, it's not that they're against us, they're lost. They are hungry for direction and purpose and meaning. They want to be heard. And after you've given them a chance to be heard, that allows us to actually open up what the actual truth of the matter is. And so we had a productive discussion about climate policy last night after those outbursts. I think we actually brought a lot of young people along in support of nuclear energy or other forms of energy policy that many in the climate movement have wrongly rejected. And so my advice to candidates is if you're running to lead a nation, run to lead the entire nation, not just the people you agree with. And that's the way I do hope to lead this nation from the White House, Neil.
You got a big endorsement out of the blue from a Republican Congressman, Steve Holt in Iowa, who had heretofore been a supporter of Ron DeSantis. Now, a lot of people say it came kind of late in the game, but he explained earlier on that he just likes you, likes your message. He thinks it's very promising, and he doesn't buy the polls. Tell us a little bit about that.
So we've seen actually a lot of late endorsers come in that have shocked people. Steve Holt, one of the strongest constitutional conservatives in the state, was one of them. He had endorsed DeSantis before. He came over to me, and largely because of the principled positions that I have taken against the carbon capture pipeline, in favor of free speech and in favor of the Constitution. Steve King is another endorser. Many people expected him to go endorse Donald Trump. He's endorsed me because of my principled positions here as well. And so we're seeing a lot of these late endorsers coming in late in the cycle. We're seeing a late surge, and I think we're going to have a shock to the system on Monday night, and that's exactly what I expect to deliver. So I'm excited about that, and I think the mainstream media is entirely missing that plot. But that groundswell of grassroots support, Neil, that's something we're seeing. I'm grateful for it, and I think the people of Iowa understand it's not about the media narrative. This is why Iowa goes first, and I really respect that process. I've done more events here than all of the other candidates combined, close to 390-plus events. And I think Iowans reward people who work hard, who show up, who are honest and transparent. And there's a reason why this state goes first, and I've grown to appreciate that through this process.
Obviously, the weather could be a factor. Your supporters are very vocal and loving you, and there are others who might be, well, I like the guy. I don't know if I'll brave, 30-degree below zero temperatures to vote for the guy. Are you worried?
I think I feel very confident about Monday night. Most of our supporters, certainly that I see, Neil, are actually hard line. And so if George Washington could brave the Delaware and didn't complain about the weather, that's what I tell many of our supporters here. In fact, I've been campaigning even over the last several days on many days where other candidates canceled their events. And we've seen people coming out in droves. We've encouraged everybody to be safe, and everybody should make their own decision. Approach it safely, drive carefully. But I do think it's going to be important for people to come out on Monday night. I'm asking all of my supporters to come out and support me and actually to do the right thing for our country. I think a lot's at stake this year. We're skating on thin ice as a nation. And I do think it's going to take somebody with fresh legs to reach and lead that next generation of Americans, to lead us to victory in this war that we're in this country. And I'm optimistic, Neil, that our best days can be ahead of us. But it's not going to happen automatically. It is going to take every one of us doing our part. Not just one president coming from on high, down from the White House to save us, but every one of us playing our part. If we're going to be saved, it's going to be because we save ourselves. And I do think that starts on Monday at the Iowa caucus. It's also Martin Luther King Day. It's a day where we commemorate a lot in this country. But I think it's an important day for our country's future. And I'm confident we're going to deliver a major surprise that night.
Vivek Ramaswamy, thank you very much. We'll be following you closely and in person in Iowa.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.